In 2007, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration released a study entitled The Robustness of the Horizontal Gaze Nystagmus Test. NHTSA had produced lots of studies before to validate their field sobriety tests, but none of them had ever been subjected to peer review. In fact, they had never before released any of the raw data on which they based their conclusions. The supposed purpose of the robustness study was to show that the HGN test isn't degraded by less than optimal conditions. They concluded that it wasn't, but that wasn't the surprise. The deviations they tested were the distance of the stimulus to the face, if it was held too high or too low, or if it was moved too fast. But the real significance of the robustness study was the raw data. In order to test the deviations from perfect conditions, NHTSA had to have a control group. For each of the 109 times they tested a volunteer with some deviation, they also had to test correctly. That means that for the first time, we have the results of the HGN test performed by expert practitioners in laboratory conditions. Here are the criteria that NHTSA used to select their testing officers. For the first time, we could see whether the claims of NHTSA that the HGN was 77% accurate were true in the real world. So, what did we find? First, let's remember what officers are taught and what they testify in the courtroom in every DUI case. They testify this way because this is what they are taught in the NHTSA curriculum. Officers originally were taught that if they saw 4 or 6 clues of HGN, they could tell their subject was over 0.10 and they would be 77% accurate. This was being taught as late as the NHTSA manual from 2006. In 2013, a mysterious thing happened. The manual was rewritten, and officers were now taught that based upon the original research, they could judge a driver was over 0.08, and they could do it 88% of the time. Just like in previous manuals, the criterion for a person over 0.08 was 4 clues, and no explanation was given for the change from 77% to 88%. Now, because of the necessity for control tests, we have 76 examples of HGN experts giving the test in perfect lab conditions to subjects with blood alcohol levels below the legal limit. And what they show is that the HGN cannot reliably tell us anything about breath alcohol levels. In each of the following charts, the yellow horizontal lines are subjects whose BAC was below 0.08, but who showed either 4 or 6 clues of HGN. The HGN test was done a total of 76 times on subjects below 0.08. In the test of the height of the stimulus, 13 of 24 subjects with BACs below 0.08 showed 4 or more clues. That's 54%. When the distance was modified, another 26 control tests were done, and 18 of the 26 subjects with BACs below 0.08 showed 4 or more clues. That's 69% of drivers below the limit who would have been falsely arrested because of HGN. When the speed of the stimulus was tested, 20 out of 26 subjects below the legal limit showed 4 or more clues of HGN. 77% were false positives. In all, 51 of 76 subjects under 0.08 with the HGN conducted in a laboratory by expert officers showed 4 or more clues that they were over 0.08. 67% of control subjects would have been falsely arrested. So how could NHTSA conclude that the horizontal gaze nystagmus test was robust? Simply put, it was a fraud. NHTSA moved the goalposts. In the 2013 manual, NHTSA defined a positive HGN as 4 or more clues. In that same manual, the criterion of a false positive was under 0.08. In the robustness study, NHTSA increased the HGN level qualifying as a positive from 4 clues to 6. And they reduced the BAC qualifying as a positive from 0.08 to 0.06. Here are the pages of the curriculum and the study which define a false positive. With the bar thus lowered, they could conclude that HGN was robust, but this is not the test conducted on the streets by officers investigating DUI. In fact, the control tests of the robustness study clearly show that even in the most pristine of settings, with conditions perfect and with expert practitioners, 2/3 of sober drivers will be identified as over 0.08 when the test is conducted as it's conducted in the field. There is no excuse for this. It is a fraud on the American courts.